Hi, and welcome back to Museum at Home. Today we are looking at art and design, and a particular form of art. It's something that many of us can still find in our own homes today: wallpaper. Now have a look around your home. Can you find any wallpaper? If you can, how many different types can you find? How many different patterns? How many different colours can you spot? Does your wallpaper show pictures? Well, wallpaper has been around for a very long time as a way of decorating our homes. It's been used for hundreds of years, probably since about the 16th century. And then simple patterns were used, and they were printed by hand with black ink on white. Now, about 100 years later, sheets were joined together to form rolls, and that made putting wallpaper much easier. And for many years, up until the 20th century, the most expensive wallpaper continued to be made in the same way, by using something called block printing, where a design was engraved onto wooden blocks. The blocks would be covered in ink and then pressed onto paper to leave the design there. Now, if you had a design with lots and lots of different colours in, you would have to use lots and lots of wooden blocks, each inked in a different colour. So you can imagine it was quite a long process, but it created beautiful designs. And later, engraved rollers would make the process even easier and would allow people to have even more detailed designs. Now we are heading back to the 19th century, the Victorian era, which was a very high point for wallpaper and for artists and for designers. In the 19th century, if you wanted wallpaper in your house, you would be spoilt for choice. Take a look at these 3 different wallpaper designs. Now they are all from the 19th century, and they're housed at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Have a look at each of them. What patterns can you spot? What colours? What objects? What shapes? Let's have a look at each one in turn. Now, first of all, this one is full of natural images. Can you spot the animals? There are some birds in amongst the leaves and the fruits. Some are sitting, some are flying. What do they seem to be doing? Now it looks to me as though they are eating some of the fruit. Now you can see that some of the fruits have been cut into and the pips are spilling out from the inside. Now these are pomegranate fruits. How would you describe this design? Would you say that it's light, colourful, or dark? What do you think? This pattern was designed by a designer called William Morris, who was a very famous Victorian artist. He was famous for writing, he was a poet, he was famous for painting, he was a painter, but he was probably most famous for his designing. And he designed lots and lots of wallpapers and fabrics that people had in their homes. Now he believed that everyone should have access to things that are both pleasant to look at and useful to use. And he believed that ordinary household objects in ordinary families should be as beautiful and well designed as those in wealthy houses. So he produced many designs for wallpapers that were used in houses all around the country, and they were full of birds, of fruit, of leaves, garden images in bright colours. And he created similar patterns for furnishings too. They became very popular during the Victorian period, and he was considered to be a very special designer. Queen Victoria herself even asked William Morris to come and create the wallpaper for her castle in Scotland, Balmoral. But if flowers and fruits aren't your cup of tea, then there were plenty of other options of wallpaper that you could choose from. Now, have a look at this wallpaper here. Now, it is very different from the William Morris wallpaper that you just saw. What makes it so different? What can you see? And who might have made this design? Well, this wallpaper might remind you of the manuscripts that we saw in the last video, those beautiful medieval manuscripts that were made hundreds of years ago. Though this wallpaper was made in the 19th century, it reminds us of something made hundreds of years before because the style looks back to that time. Can you see some text or what it says? It says en avant, which means go forward, and that's the motto of the family of the designer who made this wallpaper, Augustus Pugin. Now, like many Victorians, he loved the medieval period and he created designs to show that time centuries ago. And it reminds us of the tiled floors in castles, the colours on knights' shields and the writings in medieval manuscripts. This wallpaper makes us think of all of these different things. You could almost imagine this wallpaper hanging up as a banner in the great hall of a castle with a feast going on somewhere nearby. Now, Augustus Pugin was a great and very famous Victorian designer and architect, and you will definitely have seen at least one of his designs. You'll recognise the Great Westminster Palace, the tower of which houses Big Ben in London. Now, this was designed by Augustus Pugin. So, if the medieval style was more to your taste and you loved the stories of knights and royalty and battles, then this could be the wallpaper for you. But there were other options too, like this particular type of wallpaper that you can see now. What can we see in this wallpaper? Well, I'd be very surprised to see such an eye-catching piece of wallpaper in any modern house. To us, it's very, very unusual. What can you spot on the design? Well, we can see that there's the same large picture repeated over and over again. It's a large building and it's framed around the outside by some steps. Can you spot the people in it? If you look very closely, you can just make out a group of people on a boat and they're going towards the building. Now, they seem to be having a jolly day out, and you can see that some of the chaps are wearing hats. So, our eye is immediately drawn to the large building. What is it? Is it a real building? Well, the answer is yes. This is the Crystal Palace, a huge iron and glass building that was created to house something called the Great Exhibition in 1851. Now, this exhibition was incredible. Art and technology from all over the world was displayed inside, and over 6 million visitors came to see it. The Crystal Palace itself was only a temporary structure, so it wasn't meant to last forever. But this wallpaper was made to commemorate or to celebrate this amazing building. Now, it was a souvenir. It was something to remind people of an event and also something for people to talk about when they saw it. It's a really complicated design and it needed to be printed using a machine, not by hand. Some people didn't like these machine-produced wallpapers. They thought that they were very loud, very overcomplicated, and just a little bit cheap. But still, it was very popular at the time. So, if you were a Victorian and you were going to decorate your house, which wallpaper would you pick? Would it be number 1, number 2, or number 3? Or would you design something completely different for your home? Well, to have a go yourself and to try some other activities on this topic, head to the link in the description of this YouTube video and click on the resource pack for this topic. And you can also find it on the Museum at Home website. And next time, we'll be looking at objects that can tell us something all about the Great Fire of London. So, join me next time for another Museum at Home.